Welcome to GED Mastery. Let's get into some word problems. So the first step in any word problem is to write down what you're given. Let's look at this one. A dozen eggs weigh 1.5 pounds. How much would 8 eggs weigh? So we know that a dozen, which is 12 eggs, is 1.5 pounds. And they want to know how much 8 eggs weigh altogether. So that's what we're looking for. Our next step is to look at the answer choices. Sometimes you don't actually need to solve a word problem on the GED test, you just need to set it up. So make sure that you're not doing more work than you need to. They're looking for how much the eggs weigh, and all of our answer choices are weights. So we do actually have to solve it. So the last step is to solve it if you need to. Let's go ahead and do that. There's a few different ways to solve this problem. I'm going to find out how much 1 egg weighs, and then I'm going to multiply that by 8. So I want to know the weight per egg. So I'm going to do the total weight over the total number of eggs I have right now and find out the weight per egg. So 1.5 divided by 12 is 0.125 pounds per egg. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply that by 8 now to see how much 8 eggs weigh. So 8 times 0.125 is 1 pound. So our answer is B. Okay, let's do some practice. Tom fills his gas tank before going on a trip. He drives 168 miles and then needs 5.6 gallons of gas to fill his tank again. How many gallons of gas would he use for a 417-mile drive if he got the same gas mileage? So we could solve this like the last one. Here's our givens: 168 miles, 5.6 gallons, and then we have 417 miles. But I'm going to show you another way. I'm going to set up our proportion. So 168 is to 417 miles in the same ratio that 5.6 gallons is to X number of gallons. So I've set up a proportion, and you could set it up a couple different ways, but this one works. So let's go ahead and solve it. We're going to cross multiply. So we're going to multiply these numbers by each other and set them equal to each other. So 168 times X is just 168X. And then 417 times 5.6 is 2,335.2. Now our final step is to divide both sides by 168. So that cancels out, and X, the number we're looking for, is 2,335.2 divided by 168. So let's go ahead and do that calculation. And our answer is 13.9 gallons. Keisha had $74.81 in her checking account. She wrote checks for $46.19 and $22.45. She then made a $60 deposit. What is her new balance? So a long time ago, people used to keep a checkbook, and you always start with the amount you have. So we have $74.81, and then when you write a check, you're paying someone that amount of money. So we're subtracting these two amounts. So let's go ahead and do that. So minus $46.19 and minus $22.45. And then when you make a deposit, you're adding that number to your total balance. So we're going to add 60. And let's go ahead and use the calculator and figure out the answer. So 74.81 minus 46.19 minus 22.45 plus 60 And the new balance is A, 66.17. A brand of ice cream has 9% milk fat. How many pounds of milk fat are in a 450-pound batch of ice cream? So we have 450 pounds, and if we want to take a percent of that total, we're going to multiply it by the percent. So we can either multiply it by 9%, including the percent button in the calculator, or you could multiply it by 0.09, right? Any percent, like 9% means 9 divided by 100. So if you do 9 divided by 100, you're moving the decimal back 2 places, and so that's the same as 9% right there. So either way you want to enter it in the calculator is fine, but if you put 9%, make sure you put the percent button as well. So let's go ahead and do this on the calculator, and our answer is 40.5 pounds. At a factory, 28% of the workers are women. There are 432 male workers. What is the total number of workers at the factory? So the total number of workers would be 100%, right? And if we know that 28% of them are women, if we subtract 28% from 100, we'll find the percent that's male, 72. So 72% of the workers are male, and we know the number of male workers too. Any percent is a part divided by a whole. So the part that we have here is the male workers. So 432 over the whole that we don't know is equal to 72%, or 72 over 100. So if you recognize this from a couple problems ago, we've set up another proportion and we can solve it the same way. We can cross multiply and then solve. So 72 times x is 72x, and 432 times 100 is 432 with 2 zeros after it. And now the last step to solve this would be to divide both sides by 72. And let's go ahead and do that. 43200 divided by 72 is 600. So the total number of workers should be 600. Now we could check our work a few different ways. We could do 432 divided by 600 and make sure we get 72. Let's go ahead and do that. 432 divided by 600, and we do get 72%, right? 0.72 is the same as 72%. Adi needs to replace the molding on the left side of his car after it was damaged. The door needs 33 3/4 inches, while the rear quarter panel needs 51 2/3 inches. How many inches of molding does he need if he replaces the molding on the door and the rear quarter panel? So we need to find a total here, right? We're adding two things together. So let's go ahead and add these fractions, and let's assume that this is on the no calculator section where you can't use your calculator. And let's remind ourselves how to add fractions with different denominators. So we've got our problem set up. We need to find a common denominator. We can just multiply the denominators by each other to find our new denominator. And since I multiplied 4 by 3 to make 12, I've got to multiply this 3 by 3 as well to get my new top number. Down here to make 12, I multiplied the 3 by 4, so I've got to multiply the 2 by 4 as well, so that's 8/12. So 9 plus 8 is 17/12. And I'll go ahead and add these numbers here. So I've got 4 and 8. Now I'm not quite done because I've got an improper fraction here, so I need to resolve that first. So 17/12 is the same as 12/12 plus 5/12. And let's remember that 12/12 is just 1, right? So if I take that 1 and add it to the 84 here, I'll have 85, and then I'll have the 5/12 left over. So my answer is A. 3 friends are working for the summer. Kim makes $40 less per month than Mark. Kyle earns twice as much as Kim. In July, they earned $2,620 altogether. Which equation shows the dollar amount X that Kim earned in July? So look at the answer choices here. We don't actually have to solve the problem, we just have to set it up. So that saves us some time to realize that right now. Now we're solving the problem for X, which is what Kim earned. So let's just say that X is what Kim earned. So we've got to find out what everyone else makes. So we've got Mark and we've got Kyle. So if Kim makes $40 less per month than Mark, then that means Mark makes $40 more than Kim, right? So Mark would be X plus 40. And then Kyle earns twice as much as Kim, so that would be 2 times X. Okay, now if we want to find out the total amount, we would just add these all together. So we want X plus 40 plus 2X. So we can just cross off these ones that are X minus 40. And this one only added up 2 people, but we need 3 people. So X plus 40 plus 2X, there's our problem. Sarge uses 1.23 cubic yards of concrete to cover 100 square feet with 4 inches of concrete. How many cubic yards does he need to cover 500 square feet with 4 inches of concrete? So we've got 2 different situations here. We've got the first cube, and I'm not even going to attempt to draw that, but it's 1.23 cubic yards, and we're looking for a second one, and we don't know how many cubic yards. The height of this is 4 inches, and the height of this is also 4 inches. This one is 100 square feet, while this one is 550 square feet. So how many times bigger is the second one? Well, this is the same, so we can kind of ignore it, and we can set up a proportion with the rest, right? So 100 square feet is to 1.23 cubic yards, as 550 square feet is to X cubic yards. Let's cross multiply and solve. So 100X equals 550 times 1.23, and that's 676.5. And our last step is to divide both sides by 100. So let's go ahead and do that. 676.5 divided by 100 is 6.765, which we could round up to 6.77. The ratio of 2 numbers is 5 to 4. The sum of the numbers is 99. What number is the greater of the 2 numbers? Okay, so we've got a ratio of 5 to 4. And if they're in the same ratio, that means that we could multiply both of these numbers by the same number to get a new set of numbers, right? Let's look at all the answer choices. Well, it looks like they're all multiples of 11, so let's try multiplying both of these by 11 and see what happens. 55 to 44. Okay, those are both answer choices, and do they add up to 99? Yes, they do. So it looks like those are our numbers, and which one is the greater of the 2 numbers? 55. 2 increased by the product of 3 and a number is equal to the same number decreased by 4. What is the number? This is an algebra word problem. It might be one of the more difficult word problems you'd see. So let's go ahead and translate this English text to math. Math is just another language. So 2 increased by the product of 3 and a number. Okay, we've got the product of 3 and a number. When they say a number, they're just talking about x or whatever other variable you want to use. So we've got 2. Increased means plus, right? So 2 plus the product of 3 and a number. 3 times x is just 3x. And then it's equal to, so let's put an equal sign, the same number, all right, so we'll use x again, decreased by 4. So now decreased, we have minus 4. What is the number? So we don't just have to set it up, we also have to solve it. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. Get the x all on one side, so I've got 2 plus 2x equals, that cancels out, negative 4. And now I'll subtract 2 from both sides. This cancels out, so I've got 2x equals negative 6. And if you're not sure about your negatives, I'd use your calculator, but negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. Last step, divide by 2 on both sides. That cancels out. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So my answer is D. Let me know what you think in the comments. You've got this.